Helmuth assures himself that's good. Jail is a good place for people who want to destroy the government. More swastika flags hatch overnight, and the next day they flutter like bright birds from balconies and windows everywhere. That afternoon, Helmuth is eating bread with strawberry jam when Opa's good friend, Heinrich Warbs, knocks loudly on the door. Brother Warbs is a peculiar old man, full of opinions, and everything he thinks he says in a louder voice. Brother Warbs just can't help himself, that's what Oma says. Helmuth likes the old man, shouts and all. Everyone does. Brother Warbs waves a newspaper at Opa. The headline blares in thick, bold letters. Reichstag burns. Communist threat turned back. Hitler declares emergency decree for protection of state and people. The carpet chewer, cries Brother Warbs. This new decree takes away our freedoms. Freedom of speech, gone. Freedom of the press, gone. Right to privacy, gone. The police can search our home, listen to our telephone calls, read our mail, and Hitler calls it protection. Sometimes I think the biggest winner is the biggest liar. Helmuth is shocked at Brother Warbs. Brother Warbs is a Mormon, just like Helmuth's family. Mormons are taught to respect their country and its leaders, even if one disagrees with them. But the communists burned our Reichstag, says Helmuth. Hitler wants to protect us. It's not the communists we must fear, says Brother Warbs. Now we must fear what we say to our neighbors, what we say in our own homes, what we say over the telephone, what we write. Opa tries to calm down Brother Warbs. The decree is just a temporary inconvenience. A few freedoms aren't too much to sacrifice for safety. Helmuth is surprised. It's the first time that he has heard his grandfather agree with Hitler. How can you say that, says Brother Warbs. Decree or no decree, I've always spoken the truth, and I intend to continue to do so. He stands, thrusts his black felt hat onto his head. Oma comes from the kitchen, wipes her hands on her apron. She motions to a chair at the table. Come, Brother Warbs, sit. But Brother Warbs won't stay, even though Oma asks 2 times. I can't sit, he says. I need to walk to settle my stomach. Opa folds a newspaper and sets it down. He follows Brother Warbs to the door. The decree won't last forever, says Opa. Nor will Hitler, says Brother Warbs. That's what I pray for. I will never vote for a Nazi, no matter what they promise us. Helmuth glances at the folded newspaper. He sees a photograph of the arsonist, a squinting, tousle-headed young man. Oma peers over Helmuth's shoulder and clicks her tongue. So young, she says. I can't help but wonder how Hitler knew so quickly it was a communist plot. Helmuth can't stop staring at the culprit's face. What will happen to him? He asks Oma. The Nazis will find him guilty, no doubt, she says with a sigh. They'll sentence him to death. That's what happens to traitors. She clicks her tongue again. So young. A week later, it's election day, and Opa and Oma dress in their Sunday best. They stroll arm in arm to vote at the town hall. Later, they hear the results. The Nazi Party has gained a slight majority of seats in the Reichstag. Even people who despise Hitler have voted for Nazis, believing that the Nazis are the best protection from communists. Suddenly, brown uniforms sprout up everywhere. Helmuth's teacher, Herr Zieger, wears the SA uniform to school, and its Nazi party badge winks in the light as he struts around the classroom. He holds up the Volkshunger Vorbecher, the Nazi Party newspaper. To Helmuth's class, the headline shouts in thick letters, Germany, defend yourselves, don't shop at Jewish stores. Look what the Jews force us to do, says Herr Zieger. We must boycott the Jews in order to save the fatherland. Benno Sigelman's eyes narrow to pinpricks. It's no secret that the Jews hate Hitler and have called for an economic boycott. Jews all over the world have called on fellow Jews to boycott German goods in order to protest Hitler and the Jew-hating Nazi regime. A classmate raises his hand. My father says the Jews want to cripple the fatherland's economy. Then they will take over. Exactly, says Herr Zieger. We have 6 million unemployed and 3 million more so poor that they can't put food on the table. Haven't we Germans suffered enough already? Do we want your mothers and fathers to suffer more? The students murmur in agreement. Helmut thinks about Mutti, how hard she works, how tired she is. He doesn't want Mutti to suffer more, but all the things Herr Zieger says about the Jews feel terribly wrong. Unease crawls over Helmut. Herr Zieger glares at Benno and lowers his pointer, aiming it like a sword. You see, class, Jews are traitors who want to destroy Germany. And what does the Jew Siegelman say to that? This shocks Helmut. Benno Siegelman and his family traitors? How can that be? Benno's father flies the gold and black flag of the Weimar Republic. A portrait of Reich President Hindenburg hangs in the butcher shop. Herr Siegelman fought in the Great War, where he was wounded and earned the Iron Cross for his bravery. He wears his lieutenant uniform on national holidays. Herr Ziegler doesn't wait for Benno to answer. He stalks around the room. We must defend ourselves against bankruptcy. We must defend ourselves against Jews and their worldwide plot to take over Germany. We must fight back. If Jews want to boycott everything German, then we must boycott everything Jewish. He stops at Benno's desk and leans into his face. After all, it's an eye for an eye, isn't it? An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, Herr Ziegler, says Benno. This infuriates Herr Ziegler. His neck stretches into tight cords, and he screams, See how the Jew twists my words? See why Jews can't be trusted? Herr Ziegler grabs Benno's collar, drags him to a front row seat, shoves him into the chair. Sit here, he says, his face purple with rage, so we can keep an eye on you. Benno sits chin-jutted, doesn't look the least bit sorry. The next day, Herr Seligman and his wife come to school to meet with the head teacher. Benno retrieves his books and never comes to class again. He is transferred to the Jewish school. April in Hamburg is usually cool and damp, but the first day in April, a Saturday, is sunny. Mutti finds Helmuth a 5-Pfennig coin and tells him to buy a bag of apple cake trimmings from Herr Kaltenbach. Helmuth rushes outside and turns east onto Studerstrasse, the street where the Kaltenbach bakery and several other Jewish shops are housed. He stops short at the sight of a brown and black uniform. SS and SA men are everywhere, plastering posters on walls, stretching banners. Germans, do not buy from Jews. World Jewry is out to destroy us. They're Hitler Youth, too, boys Helmuth knows, older boys from his school, scrawling the word Jew in thick yellow paint and painting crude yellow outlines of the Star of David. On windows, doors, Kaltenberg's bakery, Abraham tobacco and cigarette import, Baumgarten hats for women, Silbaski shoes, Galinsky women's and children's clothing, Siegelman's butcher shop. Outside, Herr Kaltenbach's bakery, a stormtrooper stands. His legs are wide and his arms folded across his chest, his face tightly muscled. On the store window, the words, Germans, don't buy from Jews, have been painted. Over the front door, a yellow star glares thick with wet paint. Helmuth spots Herr Kaltenberg inside, a short, round, kind-looking man with wisps of white hair and spotless white apron. His wooden case gleams. Their paper-lined trays help with pastries and breads and cakes. Herr Kaltenbach paces back and forth, rubbing his hands together. He reaches into his apron pocket, extracts a white handkerchief, and mops his glistening forehead. Helmuth clutches the coin and starts for the door. Judenladen, growls the stormtrooper. This is a Jewish shop. Just then there are shouts. Helmuth glances across the street. Benno Siegelman's father is standing outside his shop, wearing, of all things, his lieutenant uniform from the Great War, medals and all. He has a bucket and is washing the slurs from his window, smearing the yellow paint into huge wet circles. Halt, barks the stormtrooper. Herr Siegelman turns and says calmly, My windows are dirty. Surely I have a right to wash my store windows. The street grows quiet. The air ripens, smells rotten. Helmuth wants to beg Herr Siegelman to stop, but Herr Siegelman dunks his scrub cloth into the bucket, wrings it out, and continues wiping the window. 4 snarling stormtroopers rush in. They topple Herr Siegelman, batter him, pile blows on him, kick him. He curls into a ball, protecting his head and stomach. Helmuth cries out at the thuds of fists and hard grind of boots against bone, the grunts, the groans, and then silence. The Nazis drag their arms across their damp foreheads, looking strangely flushed, exhilarated. They suck on their knuckles and brush the dirt from their uniforms. Herr Siegelman's rumpled body lies motionless on the sidewalk. A sick feeling rises in Helmuth's stomach. His mouth tastes sour. He glances at the bakery. The window shades are drawn, the store dark. Herr Kaltenbach gone. Helmuth heads down the street. He buys the cake trimmings from a German baker. He looks most pleased at all his new customers. Helmuth hands Mutti the package, and when she peers inside, she notices the trimmings right away. These are not Herr Kaltenbach, she says. Helmuth swallows hard. He tells Mutti about the stormtroopers, the boycott, the banners, the painted stars of David, and Herr Siegelman. The words feel dirty as a lie in his mouth. How dare the brown shirt pest tell us where to shop, says Oma. I will shop where I please. I don't want you to take any chances, says Opa sternly. Do you hear me? I forbid it. This hatred can't last forever. And until then, says Oma. Opa reaches for a cake trimming, takes the bite. These aren't so bad. He offers one to Helmuth, but Helmuth shakes his head no. He fears he will throw up if he eats one bite. May, a Saturday afternoon. Opa gives Helmuth and Gerard and Hans money for the movies. They buy their tickets and climb into the balcony seats. They wait for the feature, a Western, to begin. Helmuth loves Westerns. He loves the American Wild West. It's cowboys, the gunfights, the fistfights. He loves the feeling of losing himself in the action, the same way he feels when he reads his brother Karl May adventure novels, which are also set in America. The theater lights dim. A black and white newsreel flickers on the screen. The boys and girls sit restless for the main feature, but the newsreel interests Helmuth. This one shows a huge bonfire that took place in the courtyard outside the university library in Berlin. Students wearing uniforms and swastika armbands and tossing books onto the burning pyre. The books arc, and their covers spread like a bird's wings as they soar towards the fire. From now on, intones the narrator, Germans will read only German books by German authors, books that promote strong traditional German ideals. We will not have our minds poisoned by Jews and others who promote liberal ideas. In the newsreel, the students cheer. All around Helmuth, boys and girls cheer too, rocking the balcony with the stamping feet. Helmuth feels sickened. He thinks about the Karl May adventure stories. What if the Nazis ban the Karl May westerns? What if they call un-German because they are set in the American Wild West? His stomach in turmoil, Helmuth doesn't enjoy the movie. He just can't lose himself in the story. Later, at the flat, he hurries to his bedroom and closes the door. He sits on his bed and stares at the bookshelf. He reaches for his brother's novels, pulls them from the shelf. He doesn't want to hide the books, but he fears he must. Helmuth stashes them beneath the bed. He finds Gerard in the living room and sits beside him on the couch. He feels guilty about the hidden books. He knows he's supposed to honor his country and his leaders, and that means to obey, honor, and sustain its laws. That's what the Mormon's 12th article of faith tells him. But must he obey a law that feels wrong? Gerard, says Helmuth slowly, is it ever all right to do something you're not supposed to? What kind of thing are you talking about? Do you mean something illegal, breaking the law? Helmuth thinks about that. Yes, he said. Is it ever all right to break the law? Breaking the law is serious, but God gave us free agency, says Gerard. That means we have a right to choose our actions. If you choose to break the law to help someone else or keep someone from harm, then it's justified. I lost my spot. Helmuth feels hopeful for a second because Gerard is right. God did give him free agency. Helmuth tries to reason why reading a forbidden book might help someone else. He can't. Suppose it's not to help anyone. If it's for your own convenience and other people could be harmed, then it's wrong. Helmuth weighs this answer, tries hard to determine if reading a banned book could harm another person. He doesn't think so. What if it's for your own convenience, but no one will be harmed? Gerard's voice turns harsh, judgmental. Then it's selfish and wrong. You should know better. He looks at Helmuth sternly. Are you thinking of breaking the law? You'd better tell me. I've hidden your Karl May books, Helmuth admits, exasperated. They're set in America, and that makes them un-German. I don't want to burn them, and I don't want you to get in trouble. Gerard laughs. You don't have to hide them, he says. Karl May is Hitler's favorite author, you know? Hitler likes the Wild West, too. Helmuth didn't know. He feels much better, but still he finds Gerard annoying. The way he knows it all, the way he is so sure of himself, the way he can tell right from wrong as surely as if he were solving long division. The morning sun moves higher than the wall. Far from down the corridor, Helmuth hears footsteps. White-hot fear blazes down his back. The footsteps pass his cell, stop several doors away. The fear turns into cold sweat. It's not him. The rattle of keys. A door swinging open, a guard's voice. Come with us. It is time. That's what the guards say when they escort a prisoner to the low red brick execution chamber in the courtyard where the guillotine waits. A wailing sets up. No! Helmuth's stomach turns. He hears blows, the dull thuds of a truncheon, the kick of boots, the shackling of handcuffs. A door slams. Sobs, footsteps, the drag of feet. A minute passes, 2 minutes, 3. Then in the distance, metal against metal, the guillotine snaps, its iron jaws with the clang that rings throughout the prison. Silence. Helmuth's insides turn to water. He rushes to the slop bucket, throws up. He drags his arm across his mouth. He kneels beneath the cell window, closes his eyes, and prays for the soul of his neighbor. Helmuth believes in prayer, believes in God, has always believed in God, even now doesn't believe that God has abandoned him, but has grown closer. For not one sparrow is forgotten before God. That's what the Bible says. And so Helmuth does not give up hope as he prays, Oh, my Heavenly Father, if it be possible, open the minds and hearts of these people. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. He feels something. His chest swells. A warm calmness fills him. God is listening. Of this Helmuth is sure. He squeezes his eyes tighter, repeats the last words, chants them fervently, as thou wilt, as thou wilt, as thou wilt, until they wrap around him and the floating feeling comes. In April 1935, the spring has come to Hamburg. Helmuth hears it in the crackling gray ice floats that drift through the rivers and narrow canals. He sees it in the mallard ducks that bob bottoms up in the Elster Lake, in the return of the robin. Helmuth sees spring in Muti's eyes, too. She has a new boyfriend, the tall, dark-haired, mustached Hugo Hubner. Muti stays out late dancing with Hugo, and some mornings when Helmuth awakens, Muti is humming in the kitchen and Hugo is sitting at the table. He wears his brown and black SS uniform with its blue collar insignia that says he's Rottenführer, a non-commissioned corporal. Before long, the Waffenführer is sitting at the table every morning, taking up all the air in the flat. He stretches out, clasps his hands behind his head, elbows wide, and crosses his gleaming black jackboots at the ankle, saying, "The Führer this and the Führer that." Without asking, Hugo turns in Muti's old radio for a new people's receiver, the Voxenführer VE301. It is a cheap brown plastic radio with a simple dial and no shortwave, so that it only receives German stations. "See," says Hugo proudly, "the 301 stands for January 30th, the day Hitler became our leader. Thanks to the Führer, every German can afford a new radio. All of Germany can tune in to the Führer." It grinds Helmuth's stomach the way Hugo makes all the decisions, as if he was his father. He decides what Muti will make for breakfast and dinner and asks Helmuth if his homework is done. And now Hugo has decided on the radio. Helmuth cannot understand what Muti sees in a man like Hugo, but Hugo seems here to stay. And stay he does. By 1937, Hugo has moved in with them, and one morning he announces in his booming voice that the flat is too small. There's not enough Lebensraum, Hitler's favorite word for living space. "All Germans need it," Hugo says. "I have found us a new flat, Emma. We're moving." And just like that, Moody packs up everything: the dishes, the pots and pans, the uneven chairs, the brown wooden table, the worn armchair, the scratched up black oak lamp, the 2 wooden bed seats. They move to the first floor apartment at Sachsenstrasse 42. Helmuth misses the comfort of his grandparents next door, their quiet flat where he doesn't feel as though he's holding his breath, where he can escape to do his homework in peace. It's different for Hans and Gerard. They're old enough to bicycle with their friends to Cuxhaven on the North Sea, where they camp overnight and drive for mussels that they cook on the beach. But Muti is happy, happier than Helmuth ever remembered. She sings as she puts away the dishes, stacks the pots and pans beneath the sink, polishes the furniture. Her eyes glow as she tells Helmuth that everything will work out just fine, that Hugo wants to be a father to him. "Wait and see," she says. "We will marry, and then we do, Hugo will adopt you. You'll be his son." The thought turns Helmuth cold inside. "I'm 12 going on 13, he says. "I don't need a father anymore." "Every boy needs a father," says Muti. "Gerard and Hans do just fine without one," says Helmuth, "and so do I." "Just promise me you'll give Hugo a chance," says Muti. "He wants the best for you." A sensation of unease rises in Helmuth's stomach, swims about. He doesn't like Hugo. He resents his presence in their flat, but he can't tell Muti no, and so he says yes for Muti's sake. In 1938, Helmuth graduates from primary school and starts at the Oberbrau, the middle school at Brockdam. On his first day, Helmuth carries a satchel into the classroom and sets it on the desk near the window. The schoolroom is plain, but the wall paint is fresh, and the wooden floorboards newly oiled and the desks worn. The room feels well lived in. A bright swastika flag hangs above the teacher's chair. Brand new textbooks sit stacked on the desk. The other boys file in, most wearing Hitler Youth uniforms. The classroom goes noisy, and Helmuth feels lost in the din. He doesn't know anyone, so he prefers to stay off to himself to take it all in. Suddenly, the classroom door slams shut and the room falls silent. A short, trim man with fashionably slicked brown hair walks crisply to the front. He has wide shoulders and muscular arms. He turns on his heel and faces the class at attention like a soldier. The boys leap to their feet. They shoot their hands forward and cry out, "Heil Hitler!" It never feels right to say Heil Hitler instead of good morning, but it's the rule, and so Helmuth follows. The man raises his dark eyes to look at Adolf Hitler's portrait, as if invoking the Fuhrer's blessing over his class. He then lifts his arm nonchalantly, a bored wave it seems, and returns the Hitler salute. Be seated, he said, and then he introduces himself as their new teacher. Herr Winke, an exciting year awaits you, he says. Never have there been a more exciting time to be young and to be a student. Thanks to the Fuhrer, you will learn the new thinking in Germany. He thumps the textbook with his knuckles. The National Socialist Education Program surpasses any of its kind in history. You see, my boys, the reality is this. It is your job to shape the fate of our fatherland. Herr Winke picks up a stack of books and passes them out. We will begin our study with the unlikeliness of men, he says. This makes Helmut squirm inside, the same way he squirms when Hugo laughs over cartoons that depict Jews in an ugly manner. But the lesson isn't about race. It's about the different mental and spiritual traits of men, traits such as courage and honor and duty. These are questions that Helmuth has often pondered at night when he lies in bed. Helmuth grows more interested and listens intently. For some, courage and loyalty are nothing but great stupidities, says Herr Winke. They would rather be live cowards than dead heroes. Helmuth reflects on those words. He knows he's loyal, but he wonders if he is also brave, if he has what it takes to be a hero. Herr Winke continues, Others, however, cannot live without honor and prefer death to cowardice. They want their death to stand for something. He picks up a large, scrolled print. He unrolls it and holds it out for the class to see. Helmuth is intrigued by the sinking ship, by the drowning sailor who clings to the naval flag, by the debris floating about. Even as the sea rages around him, the brave sailor keeps the flag safely above him and the water. This painting is called The Fulfilling His Last Duty, says Herr Winke. It illustrates one's duty to raise high the flag, to never let it fall. That is what it means to be a good German. A good German is loyal, honorable, brave, courageous, willing to sacrifice himself for his country. Helmuth knows these things. He knows that a good German puts loyalty and self-sacrifice ahead of all personal interest. But there is something about the drowning naval soldier that bothers Helmuth. He raises his hand to speak. Herr Winke calls on him, and Helmuth stands. Wouldn't it be better, sir, to grab a piece of the floating wood, even if it means letting go of the flag? This way you might live to fight another day for your country. This enrages Herr Winke. He pinches his lips shut for a long moment. When he finally speaks, his words are clipped and cutting. Sit down. You have completely failed to understand a soldier's duty. The greatest honor for any soldier is to die for his country rather than to let the flag fall. For the flag represents the fatherland, and if the flag falls, Germany falls. Is that what you want? No, sir, said Helmuth. He feels embarrassed and confused. You are a troublemaker. I should mark this down in your party record book, but I will not. Instead, you have earned the class an extra homework assignment. Herr Winke announces that the class must write a 500-word essay with the title, Adolf Hitler, Savior of the Fatherland. Helmuth's classmates cast angry glances at Helmuth as they snap open their notebooks and copy down the title. Helmuth tries to make sense of what just happened. He opens his notebook dutifully, copies down the assignment as anger swells inside him. Anger that Herr Winke misunderstood his question. Anger that Herr Winke now thinks him a coward. Anger and humiliation beat inside Helmuth with a pulse all their own.